Welcome to Waypoint Real Talk, where we discuss real estate and your home. Let's get started with your hosts, Aaron Shishilla and Austin Heinz.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Waypoint Real Talk. My name is Austin. Today we also have Aaron with us, and we also have Brenna Eddins with Welcome Home Florida Realty. Hi Brenna, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. I know we have a great topic, which is going to be new construction and what people need to know about the new construction process. You know, some things that we're going to look for during that process, things they may not be aware of, that they should come into that knowing what they're getting into. And I know you have a wealth of information that you're going to share with us. But before we actually get into the topic itself, if you can just give us a little bit of background as far as who you are, how you got into real estate, and what you think the listeners should know about Brenna.
Okay. Well, I came to the Tampa area of Florida. Specifically, I'm in Wesley Chapel in 2003. And prior to that time, I had been in New Jersey, and our family moved here for some opportunities for my son to play tennis at Saddlebrook. And so we came down not knowing anything, not knowing, what it would be like in the area. But it was a good time to get into real estate, and I did. So my first experience in real estate actually was with two different builders. I worked for a national builder, and then I worked for a smaller builder who was building some pretty nice homes here in the Wesley Chapel, the whole Tampa Bay region. And they were a private company in that they were a small family business. But between the two, I certainly saw lots of construction, learned an awful lot. After that time, I went out on my own. Actually, right at the bottom of the market, I decided, time to quit the builder and go into general real estate. So I was in general real estate for a number of years, became a broker in 2018, and was a broker for a small Century 21 office in Wesley Chapel. And now I'm a broker of my own small partnership with Welcome Home Florida Realty. So I've done a little bit of everything in real estate. I can't imagine that there isn't something that I've run across in my experience in these past 17 years, but real estate can surprise you. So there's always something new that seems to come up that you're shaking your head about. But it's been a wonderful experience, and I've certainly had an opportunity to work with and help a lot of great people. And I've worked with you guys on a number of inspections, and it's always been a wonderful experience. So I'm happy to do this for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we really appreciate that. Thank you for being here to share your expertise. Congratulations on having your own brokerage. I'm sure that's been, like you said, a fun journey of learning a lot. And, that's a great place to end up. So congratulations on that. So before we actually get into our outline as far as new construction, I just want to ask you, starting with builders when new construction was happening a lot in the area, and then seeing in the past few years all the new construction that's happening in the area, what similarities or differences have you seen? Or is it all it's the same thing? It's just we went through a trend, right? Of a lot of building, and then the market crashed. Now we're back up to a lot of building. Has there been any trends that you've noticed with the new construction in our area here?
The biggest difference I think we're experiencing now is the delay or just plain lack of materials and issues with good work, workers. In the boom time of the early 2000s, we had some of that same set of circumstances. And of course, when we had the issue with the hurricane in 2005 and so much new construction going on. That's when you saw a lot of the distributors go out to China, and we got the famous Chinese drywall that everybody talks about. And that was a unique time experiencing that. But I think the construction industry learned a lot, specifically about the fact that not everyone does things the same way. So staying within the United States was an important piece in terms of distributing materials. What I see now, and what also occurred at that time that I find concerning, is there's a lot of people who build your house. It's when I was working for the builder, one of the things they said is this is one of the last things you will find that is actually built by hand, by actual people putting this home together for you. And so, of course, it's a collaboration of a number of vendors, and one individual, your superintendent, is the individual who is responsible for making sure that all the other individuals working on your home are doing the things that need to be done, following the plan, making sure that things are getting done in a timely fashion, that they're getting done correctly, meeting with the county inspectors, et cetera, to make sure your home is done right. Right now, what I'm seeing is that the superintendents, and this was happening in the early 2000s as well, are carrying a large load of homes. And what I mean by that is their responsibilities will be to have maybe even upwards of 20 homes that they have to follow up on. Well, truly, any individual would be overloaded with 10 to 12 homes. Carrying beyond that puts a tremendous strain on the resources of that superintendent. And they've got to follow up on a lot of things. I mean, it's like herding cats. You've got all these people going in and out of your houses at all different times. You've got to make sure that the vendors are following certain other vendors in order to get it done most effectively, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a lot of balls in the air, and the more houses one individual is carrying, the greater the opportunity to miss things, to overlook something, to forget. That's the beginning of what I think becomes a problem in the construction industry when you're building a home. And that's where the beginnings of mistakes and items missed start. And I'm not saying that superintendents don't do a great job. They do. They do a wonderful job at what they do. I've worked with some great ones who want to do the best job possible. But the more you have on your plate, the more you're spreading yourself thin. And that's what happens.
What do you think the solution is to that? Because obviously, like, you can get more supervisors and have more people in, but do you think this is a builder issue to where the profit margins aren't there? Or do you think the profit margins are there and there's a problem elsewhere?
I think it is a combination of both. I don't know if you'll want to say this, but I'll say it. I think the builders have gotten a little greedy. I think that we in this Tampa Bay area have a lot of opportunities in new construction because we still have a lot of land. And so there's always that desire to build, build, build. I think that the biggest issue is paying attention to how well your superintendent is doing their job and how much they're carrying. I think that we are now struggling with an employment issue. I know that is happening within the industry. And finding a good superintendent can be difficult. I'm sure that some do it better than others, but like any employee position, the more you appreciate the work that's being done by your superintendent, the better a job they'll do. So I think that it's a combination of a rather frantic environment in terms of lack of inventory and trying to catch up, and all the other things that are going on right now with, you know, COVID and people not coming into work and materials not getting done in time. It's a tough time to be doing this job, no question.
Yeah, and that's that's great insight. And you kind of touched on a good point there, which is we are in a weird time right now, right? COVID kind of just threw everything for a spin. And even though we can't keep using that as an excuse, you know, we have to push through it. And it's interesting that there are still some trends, even with all of that that's going on, that you're noticing that happened in the early 2000s. So, you know, at some point we have to hope that we learn from our mistakes and our shortcomings and continue to improve upon those. But you know, mentioning timing. So let's jump into our first point here, which is the timing of new construction and what people need to know about that.
Okay, well, this is a general perspective of how it goes in the industry. So once you have decided what home you're building with any builder, the next step is to generally meet with your superintendent at the beginning, make sure that you and they understand things the same way. And then in some cases, some builders are very good about having periodic inspections that you as the buyer can partake of. Other builders are like, nope, we're building this, you'll see it at the end. I don't love those builders so much. I think that this is a process that you as a buyer should be very involved in. For most people, it is the largest investment they will make in their lives. I think they have every right and responsibility to be on top of that with the individuals building their home. So from a customer service perspective, I think any builder who doesn't want you part of that process is not a builder that I would recommend for my clients. Once you've met, though, to get back to the timing, once you have met with your builder, then there's two key times to inspect. The very first key time would be what they call pre-drywall. So you could walk into the framed structure of your home that's being built, and you can see the inner workings. You know, it's like the skeleton of a body. This is the bones that hold you up. It's the plumbing, it's the electrical, it's all of that. And that's the first time you should get an inspector in, because inspectors at that point can also see if something's been missed in that structure. I remember one of the big things that happened, and this is going way back to Andrew in Florida, it was, the 80s, I think. One of the things they found with the severe destruction at that point was these builders did not put the hurricane strapping in. They missed hurricane strap. I mean, either they purposely left it out or they just missed it or whatever, but that's become a huge piece of the code for the builds that we do in this area. So you want to see that, and they're not literally straps, they're actually metal pieces that are connecting the joist with the walls, et cetera, et cetera. But you want to see that stuff there. You want to see that everything is hooked up properly. You want your inspector at that time to be able to go in and look at the plumbing and look at the electrical and make sure that the things that should be there to have a well-constructed home have been set up. The bones are set up, you know? So that's definitely the first time. Once the drywall goes up, obviously then you can't see the bones. So now you're talking about all the rest of the stuff, the cosmetics, the other things that are put into the home. And that's that secondary or end piece of the inspection, which is making sure that you've got the right materials that have been put in. I mean, I've I've seen plenty of instances where through no fault of anyone's, the wrong material gets laid. You got to, you've got the wrong tile in a house and you've got to rip it up and put it back. And so you want to avoid that by staying on top of what is supposed to be in your home. And that's why I think it's so important for the homeowner, the buyer, to be part of that, because the superintendent doesn't know what a particular tile color might be. He just sees it on a piece of paper. It's a number. So staying involved, knowing what's supposed to be going in your home, and having that good, honest, straightforward communication with the superintendent is huge, because it can save them time and it can save you time. So that last piece, inspection, is the one where you're going to make sure that the house is really put together the way it's supposed to be put together. And generally, there is, and this is sort of leaning into another part of what I consider with timing, is the builders have within their contractual language certain things that they will allow and not allow, generally. And this is a very general conversation. I'm not pinpointing anyone, but the builders will generally work with you on an inspection. They will generally want the superintendent there when you have your inspection, and then they will also expect the written results so that they can address anything that needs to be addressed. Some builders will say, there are variations in the way you might do something, and those variations are specific to the way we build. As long as they are not specific to code, then we will build it the way we determine it should be best built. But if anything comes up that an inspector finds that reflects something that is not up to code, the builder should be fixing that. And there should be no question about it. That's where a good inspector can make a real difference for you. So that inspection at the time of framing pre-drywall should take about an hour, hour and a half, maybe. So it's not a big time crunch for anybody. And then the one at the end may take longer, because you really want to go over that house with a fine-tooth comb at that point. You want to find all those little things that need to be, and I'm not saying you're nitpicking, but you want it right. This is your big investment. It should be right. And there should be no reason why any builder should have any concern with you wanting to inspect at that point.
Yeah, those are great points. And to touch back on some of them from our perspective too, usually when I talk to people about a home inspection, and we're talking about just a normal home that's already been built, I explain, we can't see behind walls, right? The inspector doesn't have X-ray vision. We don't know what's going on behind that wall if there's nothing visual for us to look at. But as you mentioned, the pre-drywall, that is giving us the ability to look behind the wall right before the wall gets put up. So wouldn't it be so much better to find those potential issues now and have the builder fix them now than for them to get covered up and then maybe cause an issue a year or 2 years from now that, hey, good luck possibly going back to that builder and trying to get them to fix something later on. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can give you a really sort of an extreme example of that, but not unusual necessarily. Not extraordinary in that, these things happen. This was a major, highly respected builder in the area within, the past several years. And this was a client of mine who put a lot of great bells and whistles in their master bath. They had the rain shower and they had the jets, and they did a lot in their master bath. About 6 months after they had moved into the home, they started to notice that some of the baseboards in the room abutting the master bathroom were getting dark. So they called in, they started to look at stuff. Turns out that some of that plumbing was not properly put in, and there were leaks. And this plumbing had been leaking from this master bath since the time that they had closed on the home and started using the home. They had to tear out the entire master bath, all the flooring in the master bedroom, the bedroom abutting the house, because all the carpeting, all the carpet padding, everything was soaking up all of that water. And so they, through what was probably a very small miss, there wasn't any inspection done on this house, what was probably a very small miss on some plumber's part, turned out to be a disaster for the homeowners. And fortunately, this builder did step up and do what they should have done. But that's a perfect example of maybe if a good inspection had been done at the time of pre-drywall, maybe that wouldn't have been missed, and it would have saved a lot of headache for the builder and certainly headache for the buyers. Just the other day, I had an opportunity to have an inspection done for a home that I am the listing agent for. It's a fairly new home built in 2016. And the sellers did not have an inspection done at the time that they closed on this home. But now that they are reselling it, an inspection was done for the new sale. And one of the things that was found, and this home happens to have a barrel tile roof. One of the things that was found, and it was very little that was found except for this one major item, was that there appeared to be a leak in the basically where the garage was, where the garage roof met. And upon inspection, obviously, they found that when the roof was put on, and this is a fairly new roof, 2016, I mean, that's a new roof. On a barrel tile roof, you should be lasting 20 to 30 years. So this was a fairly new roof, but there was a large portion where two portions of the roof met, where I guess I don't know, maybe somebody just forgot it. Maybe they meant to cut a piece of tile to fit this particular spot and they didn't get around to it. I don't know what happened, but there was a large piece missing, which meant that you were not getting the protection from the tile on the roof and water was seeping in. Now the sellers never noticed it because I guess it was in the garage and it was not a big deal. Unfortunately, it was not a huge mess, but again, had an inspector been on that roof, and today they are even using drones to do roof inspections. Had an inspector inspected that roof, I bet you that miss would have been caught. And that would have saved this issue now that these folks are reselling. Now, it's all going to be corrected, but the point is, it's a little thing that probably would have been found with an inspection. And, it would have, again, saved time and money for the buyer and the seller. So, things like that happen. And I think that, especially with today's technology, you don't even have to worry about an inspector getting on your roof if you have a tile roof, because a lot of people tend to be concerned about people walking on a tile roof. So the drones are a perfect way to be able to eliminate that concern. You can get a drone that gets in a very close shot, so that technology has improved on that service considerably.
Yeah. And that's a great point you made, that, missing the inspection, like you said, for the person who actually bought the home when it was done being built, wasn't necessarily a big issue for them because it didn't cause a problem while they were there.
Right.
But now trying to sell the home, it's, like you said, an issue that's going to be fixed, but still an issue that caused headaches and time and money. And, if it had been caught initially, once again, you could go back to the builder and say, hey, this needs to be fixed right away. So I think another important point to touch on here, and this kind of goes back to the contractual obligations and mentioning that some builders are restricting, what clients can get as far as the inspection goes. We've had that happen from the
Yes.
inspector side, where clients call us wanting to get a pre-drywall inspection done. And they call us thinking that, hey, I can just get this scheduled, but then we have to tell them, well, we can, but we need to reach out to your builder first to make sure we're going to be allowed on site, because we have
Correct.
credentials we have to send them, insurance, all that paperwork.
Correct.
And we've had one or two instances where we reach out to the builder and the builder tells us it's in the client's contract that they can only get a final inspection. And so now we have a client who knows they want this inspection, and we're more than happy to do it for them. But I guess they didn't notice, or maybe they forgot that their contract said you can only get a final inspection. And I think it's important for them to understand too, that they may ask, well, can't you just still go out there and do it? And the answer is no, right? If we don't have proper authorization, we're trespassing at that point, and the builder can call the cops and arrest anybody who's trespassing on the property. So it's really important at the very beginning. And this is where having a great real estate agent to work with can help you understand that contract and know, are they going to give you what you need to feel secure buying this new home that's under construction?
Absolutely. And you make a key point there. There is nobody in all the years that I've been working in the real estate industry that I've ever known to read their entire contract. And that's where I think I add so much value. And this is, people are always asking, well, what do I need a realtor for new construction? The same way they ask, what do I need an inspection for new construction? Because obviously the house has been inspected by the county, all this stuff has been done. Well, the reality is I know what to look for the same way you know what to look for. If you're going into new construction, I'm not saying that anyone is going to mislead you, but they're certainly not going to go over every single little detail of the contract with you at the time that you're signing this contract. And lately, I'm seeing certain builders that are being very restrictive with what the buyers can do, and especially as it pertains to inspecting the home. I think it is, to me, it is against everything that I think a consumer should be looking for. I think you should, if your builder is not willing to allow you to inspect the home periodically, it's not costing them anything. You're paying for it, the buyer's paying for it. I would seriously question that builder. Why don't you want me in the home seeing what's being done? Well, it might be because you look in a wall and you see a bunch of beer cans. It happens not infrequently. And that speaks to what's going on with your home throughout the construction. Now, I'm also very cautious about telling people, you don't want to see every little bump and bruise in your home as it's being built, because you don't want to take that excitement away. You don't want to think your house is not being well built, but stuff happens. A window gets broken by mistake. Stuff happens in a natural build that, it gets fixed. And at the end, if you see it at the end and you have it, and it's beautiful, you're really happy. So there is a give and take to it. And there is a give and take to understanding the expectation that should be set with an inspection. An inspection is not there for you to criticize how something is being built. It's there to make sure that the build is up to code standards, up to normal building standards, so that you are getting a well-built house. And that's the key. Understanding what the inspection is meant to do, and recognizing that you should have a right as a consumer to have that inspection. And honestly, it's the builders, I think, some builders are just not being very forthcoming these days with what they're allowing. And it really concerns me.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a really great point about, while we're on this specific topic. So my parents own a home inspection company on the east side of Florida in Brevard County, the Space Coast area, and they work with one specific builder. And with this particular builder, they do all of the quality check inspections for these builders' homes. So after it's finished, they hire this inspection company to do the inspection to make sure that their contractors and their vendors did the job that they were supposed to. If they were not able to fulfill the job like they were supposed to, what happens is, well, the vendor or the contractor has to come back out for free to do the fix. Otherwise, they don't get paid.
Right.
And if it's not done after that, and it's still brought up, the thing is that they have some type of contract with these vendors and with these contractors that the builder actually gets refunded, whether it's a certain amount or the total amount of what they were supposed to pay for this contractor or laborer. So it's a really unique relationship, a really great relationship, because at the end of the day, it's a win for everybody, right? The homeowner has a great inspection, right? And the home gets QC'd by an independent party rather than the supervisor.
Correct.
The laborers and contractors come out and they get their work double checked just to make sure everything's good. The builder could make money if their laborers or contractors don't do what they're contracted or obligated to do.
Right.
And then obviously the inspection company can come in and earn a little bit of money by doing the inspection and possibly work out something with the warranty inspection.
Right. There used to be a builder in this area that has that is no longer a builder in this area. Not very nice builder. I loved working with them. They've been bought out by a large national builder, but they used to do that same thing. And that was part of one of those situations where you could say, okay, although we don't know who this third-party inspector is, you know, if this is being done, could you maybe say, well, I'm not going to worry about it because not only have all the county inspections been done, the superintendents walk through the house, now this third party builder or this third party inspection company is coming in and looking for all those things on my behalf and on the builder's behalf. And so maybe it isn't so important that I have an inspection done. So I think that kind of collaboration between an inspection company and a builder is phenomenal. I don't see why every builder doesn't do it. But in the long run, that $300 or $400 is money well spent by a buyer to make sure that their home is up to what it should be. I think that $300 or $400 will, and let's go back to the roof issue I just described. I'm sure it's going to cost them more than $300 or $400 to get that small piece of that barrel tile roof and then the subsequent stuff that has to go on to fix, to repair. It's going to cost well more than $300 or $400. So that $300 or $400 to me in the overall scheme of things is money well spent. And I'm always surprised when people don't want to do it.
Yeah, we are too, because we have plenty of pictures and examples as far as why you need a new home inspected. And I know throughout this podcast, you've given some examples as far as issues that you found or issues that can come up. What is the biggest or the craziest thing you've seen with a new home that you were like, wow, I can't believe that was an issue or that's something that was missed?
Well, I think the worst and the craziest one was this issue with the family who had the leak. That was the biggest. I've seen little things here and there, and I've certainly seen plenty of. I remember seeing going into a new home construction, and the bathtub was in, but it was still the framing was still open for the bathtub, and the entire bottom level under the bathtub was all beer cans. So the people who had been building this house had been enjoying themselves while they built. And that to me is, what a red flag. I mean, if that were me buying a house and this is what I saw, and of course the buyers didn't see it, but really, this is the kind of people who are building my house, I would be not happy. So you see, those are the little things. The way a construction site looks should raise red flags to any buyer. if you walk into a construction site and there's trash all over the place and you know, cans, whether they're beer or something else, that to me would not sit well. I would be talking to my superintendent about how that build is being managed, because there's no reason for it, and it speaks to sloppiness, in my opinion. So, you know, the hardest part, the hardest job that I have is that I can often not really do anything about what is observed. I can make noise about it, but that's, you know, I ultimately cannot really change it. But if if these are the things, you know, if in watching this video, someone can get some things out of it that they should be prepared for and they should pay attention to in their new construction, then I've done a good job, and so have you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this is all about, right? Is educating. You know, obviously we're home inspectors, you're a real estate agent, like this is what we do. But at the end of the day, we just want people to know what they're getting into. Even if they don't hire us for the inspection, or if they don't hire you as the realtor, at least they have an understanding of the process, which puts everybody in a better position.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I think some of the key takeaways from this are, one, just because it's a brand new home, don't come in thinking it's going to be perfect, right? You need an inspection done on your behalf. Right. Two, understand your contract, understand what you're allowed to get and what you're not allowed to get. And if something doesn't mesh with what you were hoping for, it's so much better to know that early on in the process before you start getting into that process. And now, you know, you're being surprised by things you weren't aware of.
Exactly.
And then I think the third big takeaway is, and once again, like, I think this is super important, is hire a real estate agent to be on your side. You know, we're not trying to vilify builders. I think we've said that multiple times, and that's something to make clear here, is we're not saying builders are bad or scummy or anything like that. No, like they are generally good people behind these companies that serve a much needed service in our area, right? With all the people that are moving down here, we need more homes, so we need them. But you know, it's still important to understand that at the end of the day, the builder is going to be looking out for their own best interests, whether it's their salesperson, whether it's their supervisor, whether it's their crew. So it's important for that buyer to have their own independent real estate agent, their own independent home inspector, just to make sure that everything's being done to their specifications.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's in the and you know, the crazy thing about it is that people seem to think it is going to cost them more from my services, which it doesn't. The builder is going to charge you the same amount for the house, regardless of whether you use an independent realtor working on your behalf or not. And the few $100s it costs to get a good inspection team out there looking at it's, in the overall scheme of things, it's nothing. So you know, it's so worth the money being spent when you're thinking about the cost of housing these days, and you know, it's just risen so quickly over the last few months. If you're spending $400,000 on a house, what's $400 on an inspection? What is that? You know,
super small number.
Yeah, like what is that? Is it like 1%?
0.001%?
Yeah,
0.01%.
right, exactly. I mean, it's nothing compared to what, you know, what your investment is. It's worthwhile for the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Brenna, for anyone who's listening to this podcast, watching this video, getting ready to start the new construction process and say, I want Brenna as my real estate agent, how can people find you or get a hold of you?
You can certainly Google me, and there's a lot of stuff out there. Fortunately, although I have worked for several different brokerages, my phone number has remained the same, as has my email. So I am Brenna Eddins at hotmail.com, and you can reach me at 813-469-3450 by text, by phone, by, you know, whatever means of communication you find most effective. I answer my phone, and I'm always happy to talk to people, even if they don't use me. I have always been that person who is happy to talk about real estate And if it can help you in some way, that's great.
Awesome. And we're also going to have links to that in our description here on the video. So that way people can have your email and phone number there too.
Perfect.
So great. Well, thank you so much, Brenna. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the podcast, for sharing your wealth of knowledge in new construction, and look forward to seeing, you know, what we do together in the future and helping new home buyers as they're going through this process.
Absolutely. Thank you for reaching out to me. And if you should want to do this again in the future, I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely. Sounds great. Thank you again. See you later, everybody. Have a good day.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.